Welcome again to the Bountiful Chest. I am Shadow, and I had some friends with a interesting way that they played Dungeons and Dragons. So it was back when I was in middle school, which was, yeah, that dates me probably because it was still the time of second edition Dungeons and Dragons. So they were a group of two, one DM, one player. So two people playing D&D. And it wasn't one PC, he had six PCs. I don't know if this was the influence of the computer RPGs, because like the old Dungeons and Dragons RPGs that we remember, like Baldur's Gate, or which actually came out when I was high school, so it might have been previous one. But we also had like Might and Magic, which some of those games varied from 6 to 8 characters sometimes in weird ways. Uh, Before a lot of RPGs truncated the parties down to 4. Um, but yeah, 6 PCs, which you could have a fairly well rounded out party with that because obviously you have a fighter, you have a rogue, you have a cleric, and you have a wizard. Now you have two other slots you can fill in with a ranger, a paladin, a druid, maybe. Classes were a little more limited in second edition. Uh, Kits filled out some specialities, but they had their advantages and disadvantages depending on classes. I actually think I'm curious how often Bard was played in second edition. I don't think as much. Um, but I thought, this is an interesting way to play the game. Uh, when you think about it, it does ensure that you don't have general infighting between characters because there's one player. So it's going to be, in general, very cooperative between characters because there's one player. There's no reason for infighting. And if they look at a sheet and says this magic item is better for this character than this character, they'll put it where it's best suited instead of having two players infight about whether the +1 is better for this guy or that guy. It's an interesting way to play too, from the DM perspective, because you don't have to worry about making sure every single player gets some time in the sun. If one character doesn't get as much storyline in a campaign, it doesn't hurt a player. So, and if you get into like second edition had a whole bunch of roles for hirelings and followers and strongholds. And if you got into that, you don't have to worry managing it all with one player instead of 6 different players. Uh, so there are some advantages. What would be the disadvantages? Well, lacking a lot of interaction between people and characters that you're going to miss out on some of the interaction of roleplay. Now, I thought this was an odd way to play. Uh, I wonder if other people actually did this too. And I was talking with a friend last night, and he said, "Oh yeah, me and this other guy did that when we didn't have any other players." So I wonder how common it is. I hope it doesn't turn out to just be a regional thing. Uh, what do you think? Are there interesting ways your game played before? Are there styles of gameplay that you've seen once and nowhere else? I've been in games where we had everyone play two characters. Uh, or at least had the option to do so. We had a newer player that only played one because she was still learning rules. Uh, she's she's a much better player now. There was a period where she forgot rules week to week. Uh, she also DM'd what I think was one of the best campaigns our group has had. Uh, Sadly, it lasted too short. Uh, for reasons we don't associate with several people that were in that game, unfortunately. Um, but it was one of the best campaigns we had. Uh, I'm getting off topic now, but yeah, I actually have been in. I've been used to fill out a party before by playing two characters instead of one, where everyone else had one. Of course, I was two melees. I was a warrior and a paladin, fighter and a paladin. I always say warrior. Uh, was a dwarf warrior that I often have a particular one or two dwarf warriors that are my dwarf warrior. Uh, of course, I role played two different characters. Uh, not, I'll admit it. I didn't go all out on having two different characters to the point of I'd have them argue with each other. But other characters, other games, I know there is a process, a game style called gestalting where you essentially are playing one character as two character classes. Uh, I don't know if that's purely a 5e thing or if that has also been done in 4 and 3.5. I haven't heard it done in second edition, though did have second edition had its own style of multi-classing, which I'll do a video on later. That might be next week's video. I do plan to do a video on different styles of what the different styles of multi-classing have been, but gestalting is uh, a thing in 5e where I guess if you don't have enough players, you just fill out the classes with having people be two classes. Uh, though I imagine that limits some of your actions you can do because of the whole one bonus action, one reaction rule. I don't know. Have you just gestalted where you give two bonus actions around? It's still, I imagine that throws off a lot of balance. But if you're gestalting, you're probably a little less worried about overall balance. Um, I can't think of too many more odd ways to play uh, involving multiple characters. I do wonder if it's the influence of both um, computer RPGs and times when people just have a lack of players. It was probably more common in second edition when we didn't have all the online tools. Now we have online tools coming out our ears. There's all sorts of virtual tabletops, Discord and other voice chat systems, and uh, ways and places to find other players. Anyways, I think that's it for this video. A little bit of a short one, but see you all later and have great adventures.